everyone, or good morning, or wherever you are. Thank you for being here at the live stream. As always, I will ask you if you can hear me clearly. Please let me know right now if you can hear me clearly or not. Then I can adjust the audio settings right from the start. Let me see who's here. Chris is here. Hi, Chris. Maria is here. Justin's here too. The rest is here. Please let yourself be known in the live chat, please, because I know you're here. I can see the amount of people that are attending the live stream. Praise God. All right. So you all can hear me clearly. So that means I can start immediately. Look. Oh, Matt Tatron is here also. Okay, I'm say Logan is here. Look. Suspicious silence. I hope I wrote that well. But anyway, if not, I could add it later. Suspicious silence. How many of you ever, it's just a question to you, a regular question. I'll give you just 1 minute to just fully think about it, but how many of you ever experienced a situation where everything was so silent, so quiet that it's kind of scared you? Let me know in the live chat if you've ever been through that. Have you ever been into a situation where things were so quiet, so calm, to the extent that it scared you? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know. I'll wait for a minute to get your answers. I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. Let me see what the answers are. Some of you had Justin's not sure. Well, okay. Let me explain to you a dynamic in human populations. Sociologists know about this. Um, their politicians were sure are aware of this, but what I'm going to explain to you is a common dynamic in human populations. It goes like this. When there is an annoyance in a population, the annoyance can be some criminals running around in the streets. The annoyance can be that trains are often too late in a country. An annoyance can be anything that disrupts their ease. When there's a public annoyance going on, something that upsets a lot of people. In the beginning, people will just put up with it. They won't even bother with it. They'll just ignore it. Eventually, them putting up with this going to exhaust them, and then a few people amongst the community that step to a few people amongst the community are going to act out against it. Well, the people that act out against it, they're the ones we will be seen as the perpetrators, but it's really the whole community secretly backing them up. That's why those narcissists are so confident and blunt in acting out. So step one, people ignore the annoyance. Step two, narcissists become blunt and act out. They express the public displeasure. Third thing is the public becomes confident in acting out their annoyance. Now, after step three, there are two ways it can go. Either at step four, they find an outlet to explode upon, whether it's migrants or a certain politician or foreigners or whatever, and then suddenly things get calm again. Or at the climax of people's discontent, suddenly the object or objects of their anger escape uh, their grip. For example, it can be that there is a politician that nobody likes, And everyone hopes the politician will go down, will be arrested, impeached, and suddenly the politician just disappears of all charges. Or it can be that, for example, there are a bunch of migrants roaming in the streets. And suddenly those migrants end up having well-paying jobs somewhere else. And the people kept looking down on those migrants. What I'm saying is, when the public has this climax of discontent, if they don't get an object to bring down, they will never get calm. Now, what if they have an object and everyone puts their focus on that object or objects, but those object or objects end up escaping? It's similar to you go to casino, put in all your savings into the casino machine, and you end up losing all your money. It is the same effect. What's going to happen if someone puts out all their savings, 30 to 50,000 euros, in in a betting machine at the casino and they lose all the money? Well, there's going to be a big silence for a long time because they can't believe they really lost all their money. Well, they should have seen it coming, but they lost all their money. But are they going to remain silent? No. There's going to be denial, then it's going to be sadness, then it's going to be rage. Well, understand this. When the public has their peak of resistance, when there's a peak of resistance going on amongst the public, and they finally think they got their victim, but the victim ends up escaping, what happens is that there's going to be disbelief amongst the public. But once there's proof that the victim or victims escaped easily, and they're the ones left with all the heavy tension, people become silent, completely silent. Now, why do you think the public suddenly becomes so silent? What do you think? Let me know in the live chat. There are no wrong answers. I'm not. There's not a test. I just want to examine your knowledge. What do you think is the reason the public suddenly becomes silent? Let me know. Okay, got one answer over here from Christopher. What does the rest say? I'll wait for another minute. Hold on. Okay, I got a few answers. But okay, let us compare it to this. Let's say you have a racehorse going on. You know, at the race horse, at the those runs, those horse races. I mean, those races with horses. People tend to bet on horses. Okay, and they put their money on a horse. And if you put the money on a horse that wins, you end up getting the money. If five people put a bet on a horse and the horse wins, it means all the money of all the bets is divided between those people. That's how it goes. Let's say now there's a horse in in the stable, and this horse is a bit weak. The horse is a bit sick, so the horse cannot even walk properly. Now, do you think people are going to put a bet on that horse? Absolutely not. Everyone knows if that horse can't even catch any speed, so nobody's going to put any bet on it. They'll put a bet on any other horse. But then one day, a guy walks in and he puts his money on And now, a lot of people think, are you kidding us? You want to bet on this horse that can barely function? Okay, so people think, okay, this guy want to put a bet on that horse. But then, for fun, people thought, you know what? Let's all put a bet on that horse. Because at least if we put a bet on that horse, the money will be given back to us when horse loses. So that's the rule. If the horse loses, and then everyone will get the cash back. So a lot of people thought, you know what? Let's put a bet on that horse too. A lot of people that we divide against everyone. So people thought if we put our money on that horse over there, we also winning. Well, duh. And nobody put a bet on any other horse. So people just thought, you know what, we did this one time. Everyone puts money on that horse. They can't do anything, and we all get everything equally divided. Of course, people that put the most bets on it. Can you all hear me now? Let me know, or else I will shift towards my mobile phone. Can you all hear me? Let me know. All right. Go. Hold on. All right. Um, now you see two of me. One needs to go. Okay. Can you all hear me now? This should be better. Let me know if you can hear me now, please. Okay, that's good. So I will just use my mobile phone since then. Okay, so I'm gonna go back with the example. A horse race is a horse that's sick, can barely operate. So we'll think, according to the rules, if we all put our money on that horse and horse loses, we will get the money back equally divided. So they do this a few times. Then one day, someone says, you know what? This horse is going to win. People laugh at him. So people just bet on other horses. Guess what? The sick horse that nobody expected to win outruns everything. Guess what's going to happen? All the other people who bet their money now lost their money. They're not going to take this. They're going to think there must be some cheating going on. Is it through the same horse? They're going to start denying. Once it gets through to them that they lost all their money, all hell breaks loose. Well, let me tell you, when the public, when the public finally gets, it finally gets through to the public that they cannot escape by blaming the victims anymore, the silence that will follow will be suspicious. Nobody wants to address the obvious. But then a few weeks or maybe a few months will pass by. And out of the blue, out of the blue, there will be some hysteria happening. But when the hysteria happens, people won't see the connection with the period of silence that went before. So what I'm teaching here in this live stream is that as believers, we have to be ahead of this mass eruption that will come afterwards. When you notice that the masses are becoming quite silent, especially silent about a specific topic, now you know for sure that you need to look around you. For example, if there was, for example, this happened in, I believe, 2007, 2008, I believe. A lot of people in Europe were upset with the Greeks because they were blaming the financial crisis on Greece. There were even jokes made about Greek people owing the rest of Europe money. I mean, for months, a lot of people were upset with the Greeks. They couldn't stop blaming the Greeks, complain about the Greek people. But then, out of the blue, everyone stopped talking about Greece. Another believer told me, Rashish, what happened to Greece? I thought everyone was so upset with Greece. I thought Greece was the reason why the financial crash happened. I thought Greece, people were so upset with making Greece pay. I thought they want to kick Greece out of the European Union. I mean, what happened? Well, guess what? Everyone was blaming Greece, Greece, Greece. But the Greek people, despite their country being considered bankrupt, they still had a sustainable attitude how to keep the country going. And that revealed a weakness in all the other European countries. So when this became obvious, suddenly nobody wanted to talk about Greece anymore. Nobody wanted to talk about Greece at all. Then 2010, 2011, and out of the blue, it shifted towards the second term of Obama. But Greece, if today you ask people about Greece, that is 14 years later, people may think Greece, what's going on in Greece? I don't know. There are people you can ask today about Greece, and they won't even remember that 14 years ago, they were losing it against the Greeks. Here's the thing. The scapegoating of Greece was not sustainable and was not convincing. It was not convincing at all. And this is what I want you to understand. When the masses are upset about something and they begin to look for an outlet, the outlet has to be a convincing target. I mean, if let's say if a tragedy happened in a community, for example, several women have been, a big portion of women have been sexually harassed, and then they blame a few guys in a wheelchair who can barely go out, it's going to look quite ridiculous. It's going to be quite humiliating. But if they would blame some of those asylum seekers who are homeless on the streets, okay, that would be more believable. So the public is always looking for believable excuses for why they are not facing life as they should. But the public, being in the rush to escape, will often miscalculate their options. And when they miscalculate their options, eventually they'll realize that they've put a bet on victims that are not believable. And what happens when you put a bet on a target that's not believable? It will look worse on them, the public, and they'll be exposing themselves. So once it becomes obvious to the public that they've made a wrong bet, they suddenly start talking about it. Suddenly, it becomes people even begin to deny that it ever happened. So, as believers, the moment you notice that in society things are so silent and so quiet, especially concerning a certain topic people used to be loud about, then know that this is just the calm before the storm. As many people familiar with the weather know, before a hurricane, a tornado, or any storm arrives in the natural, often clouds and wind are withdrawn from an area. For example, before a tsunami would hit a shoreline, you would see the sea level going down. So the beaches become large beach become bigger because the sea level goes down. But why is the level going down? Because the water is being withdrawn to a location, and later the same water is withdrawn will come back with full force as a tsunami. That's an enormous wave. Well, that phenomena of a tsunami with uh, amongst around beaches, it happens in oceans, it happens in seas also. That same thing happens amongst human communities. When the public is silent about something that's in their face, about something that they should be addressing, or about something they used to be so angry about, it's a calm before the storm. But what often happens is that a lot of people, including believers, they fall for the silence. They think, oh, everything's resolved, everything's calm now. No, 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 it's not calm, it's not resolved. When the public fails in, in organized victimizing, they become wild. And when they become wild, they become desperate for anything to give them a pat on the back. Anything. Now you understand how a mass psychosis operates. And I uploaded a video, I believe it was early today in the morning. I've uploaded a video in which I've explained, based on the Truman Show, based on a movie, I explained to you that the only thing required for the masses to collaborate with a conspiracy or with any evil plot is simply suggesting uh, an identity to them that will make them feel good and make them look good. Offer someone or offer the public an identity that will make them feel good about themselves, that will make them look good, and they're all in on you. That's how it goes. Right wing extremists operate like this. Right wing extremists are known to operate in this fashion. They hold on to so called Christian values and they attack the left, saying the left is satanic, look at all the crap they're allowing to happen. But at the same time, those at the right wing, especially the extreme right wing, they don't come with long term solutions to deal with whatever goes on in the community. So at the right wing, especially the far right, you have this identity politics going on. People often associate identity politics with the left, but the same you have on the right. The public wants to hear how good and well behaved they are. They want a pat on the back. That's where they get the psychological ease. So they want an identity to identify with. And anyone who does not match this identity is an outsider that doesn't exist. That's how extreme it is. So another suspicious silence that goes on right now is the withdrawal of Russia from Kherson or Kherson. I don't know how to pronounce it. Well, I'll just say Kherson for now. Correct me if I'm wrong. This Ukrainian city. I mean, when Russia invaded Ukraine earlier this year, there were many Putin lovers throughout Europe, especially in the Netherlands, were many Putin lovers supporting the invasion of Ukraine, saying, oh, Russia is a victim, the United States provoked, and all of that. They saw Putin as a kind of a hero. And I was thinking to myself, I'm sorry, you do realize that this man invaded another country. And the places where the civilian deaths happened were places where Russians live. So Putin, the president of Russia, caused an invasion in Ukraine, another country, and invaded areas of many other Russians live. So Putin killed Russians in another country to so-called stand up for Russians. And he destroyed the economy of the area in Ukraine where many Russian people live. So it's a contradiction. And guess what? How are you going to teach your children not to extort and rob other people or to rape other people if you support a tyrannical leader doing this to his own people that live in another country? So I was thinking, what is people doing? But guess what? When when reports came out that the Russians weren't doing it well, suddenly all those pro-Putin supporters, they were silent. Then they tried to come up with dirt on Zelensky, saying, oh, it used to be a gay stripper in the past. I was thinking, okay, even if that's true, even if it's true, I'm not confirming or denying it. What does that have to do with it? That was back then. He's the president of Ukraine right now. Oh, and guess what? And there's the thing. In 2014, when MH17 was brought down, a lot of Dutch folks were pointing finger at the Russians, saying we need to do something against the Russians. Now, suddenly, 8 years later, there's still no official prosecution of those who were responsible for bringing down MH17. Suddenly, they're all about Russia this, Russia that. Oh, F Ukraine, F Ukraine. What did Ukraine ever do wrong to them? And what did Russia ever do for those people? Oh, suddenly they forgot all about MH17. Wasn't MH17 brought down in the east of Ukraine where pro-Russian rebels were fighting, that were being armed by support from Russia? How come now you forget about the fact that Russia may have been involved in the murder of 200 of your own countrymen? So it comes down to this. When the public becomes so silent, that silence is a pathological withdrawal that they're into. Think about the tsunami. Water pulls away. So you're at the beach, suddenly the beach becomes bigger. The beach becomes bigger because the sea level is quite low. You can even see some of the fish over there dying because the sea water is so low. See, the fish are dying over there because the water is so low. See some of the sunken ships over there also think, wow. But then a few days later, an enormous flood comes that wipes away all the coastal towns. Well, let me tell you, I made a live stream a while ago. Maybe not that long ago, maybe 2 months ago, or I don't know exactly when I did, but I made a live stream this year. I explained how the right wing will lose because they're not united when it comes to finding solutions. And guess what? In Sweden, yeah, you had a right wing victory. In Italy, you had one. And in many other places, the right wing is coming up. But guess what? Where is the euphoria, the euphoric future they were predicting? That the left is going to crash, that we're going to get back sovereignty, the EU is going to be dissolved, and we're all going to have our own countries, we're going to be left alone, mass migration is going to stop. Where's that euphoric future they were prophesying? It's not happening. Oh, and Trump, the big guy they were supporting, didn't win. And now even many of Trump's supporters are turning against him. The other guy, Putin, that they were kind of idolizing, he's not succeeding either. So I'm just using the right wing example now, but it's not just the right wing, but understand this. The silence you see now amongst those extreme, those far right people is a reason for concern. Because this means that soon those same people will lose their mind. And I'm not going to say that they're going to start purging. I hope not. but it will head in that direction. Well, someone mentioned the UK. Well, there has been little tiny purge going on in some streets of the UK already. The purge, I mean the knife crime epidemic in the UK. Those are small purges here and there in the streets that goes on. People stabbing one another up, stabbing one another, losing their minds. Well, let me tell you, the far right doesn't want to face their defeat. And when you look at it, the rise of the far right began in 2015. Because I could remember very well in 2014 that the far right was seen as a big joke. Nobody wanted to take them seriously. It was 2015 that out of the blue, the far right became so popular. And it was 2015 that this Trump guy appeared with idea to, well, join the politics and all of that. So it was 2015 that a turning point happened. Well, actually, 2012, people began to resent the left. But 3 years later, when the Syria war began and all of that, when the mass migration to Europe, 2015 was the boiling point. It began. And guess what? We're not even a decade later, and the far right is crashing. Let me tell you why they're crashing. Because their predictions were based on false data. Look, the far right expected that emotions alone will move people into what they want. And a lot of people were moved by emotions. Think about Brexit. Think about Make America Great Again. Think about those patriotic Russians who were for this whole thing that went on in Ukraine. Or whatever. Think about those nationalists that are rising up all over Europe, those populist movements. Emotion. Stop mass migration, kick those asylum seekers out, leave us alone, our country, go back to your own country, blah, blah, blah. Okay? But look at this. Where are their solutions? Because at the end of the day, people want something to work out for them. Nobody will join your movement unless there's something that will benefit them in the long run. People are motivated by results. Now, sometimes people get obsessed with results and they don't consider the consequences come with the results. That's true. But people, at the end of the day, they want something to benefit them in the long run. And guess what? The far right existed before 2015. I'm not saying it suddenly came to exist in 2015. It existed long before that. Well, let me tell you, 2015, it was hot. 2017 was a peak. 2018, another peak. 2019, it seems like, man, the right wing is a new future. The leftists are gone. 2020, you know what happened 2020. When 2020 hit, where were all those far right people? There's a question for all of you. When 2020 hit, where were all those far right people? What did they offer for the crisis that hit the world? What did they offer? So, two questions. Where were the far right people when the crisis hit 2020, and what did they offer to the public? Let me know in the live chat. I'll wait for your answers. Okay. Christopher had an answer. What does the rest say? What did the far right um, where was far right when the 2020 crisis hit? And second, what do they offer? Okay. It's true. You can't have a political solutions don't even exist. I've explained this on the channel more than often. Political solutions don't exist because politics is a conflict. Politics is a conflict that's played out without direct use of weapons. That's politics. So there can't be anything as a political solution because politics is the conflict that needs to be resolved. So the fact that many of you couldn't come up with an answer on those two questions shows already that the far right had nothing to offer in the long run. And where were they? They were making YouTube videos. When they were banned on YouTube, they went to BitChute or they went to, I don't know, to those other platforms. But they were mainly making conspiracy theorist videos. That's what they were doing for the most part. And I have to admit, some of those conspiracy theory videos contain some facts, which are true. And some of the predictions of those of the far right were proven to be true also. But what did they lead their followers into? And that's where it stops. And that's why 2022, we're at the end of 2022 now, about the end of 2023. It has been 8 years. It's 8 years? Hold on. Let me see. 2005. No, it has been 7 years. Yeah, 8 years. 2014, it kind of pulled up, but 2015 was actually the start. 7 years. 7 years since the far right became a dominant thing. But now, its followers are disappointed. And they won't admit disappointment. Okay, but someone asks, can you address the far left? The far left now is seeing the disappointment of the far right. But here's the issue. The far left does not want to address the disappointment of the far right. Now, why do you think the far left does not want to address the disappointment of the far right? Let me know in the live chat. Why do you think the far left doesn't want to address the disappointments of the far right? Let me know in the live chat. Let me know. The question is, why do you think the far left does not want to address the disappointment of the far right? Okay, let me explain it to you. The far right is all about escaping. Leave us alone. If you're not similar to us, you're not around. You shouldn't be around. It's always your problem. Don't bother me. It's all about escaping, but they want to escape under the mask of Christian values. Okay? But here's the issue. The far left know very well that the far right is all about escaping. They know very well that the far right doesn't offer any solution. Here's the thing. People that join the far right, they turned against the liberal escapes that the far left were promoting. The far left has this live and let live attitude. Just, okay, we do intervene, but We don't what we intervene only to make sure nobody gets pissed off. This is what the far left is doing. The far right has a lot of proud people that claim, oh, we don't need all those escapes. We don't need all that government. We don't need all of that. We can just do it all by ourselves. Leave us alone, blah, 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 blah. The far left knows that once the disappointment of the far right is addressed, that there's not going to be any quick fix to calm those people down. That's why. And here's the thing, the left has always been like the police of the right. Oh, the right just wants to keep things traditional, never wants to face anything new, just want to be left alone in the little bubble, while the left would point out the defects and tell, listen, you need to acknowledge this. But we don't have solutions either, but at least we're going to address it. The left has been known to address things that the far right doesn't want to admit exists. But here's the issue. To have a lot of people so disappointed, how is the left going to offer any quick fix for this? They cannot. And here's another thing. From both the far left and the far right, you have rebels coming out into what's called the woke movement. A lot of people associate the woke movement with the left, but it isn't by definition a left thing. The woke movement are just a bunch of people, both from the left and the right, who are fed up with this duality and just call things out. They call things out and they actually keep showing the dysfunction in people's faces. So what happens now is that you have a bunch of people who are so angry that they keep on showing the bad things that goes on all the time. The left, especially far left, can't stop those people. The far right does want to, it keeps blaming those woke people for things going wrong. So do you see now that the left versus right paradigm is not working in bringing ease anymore? So on the left, there's also silence. Not only because their guy, Mr. Joe Biden, whom they also nicknamed Jim Crow Joe because some of his racial comments that he made. Not only is their man kind of embarrassing himself worldwide, but apart from that, the left cannot play morally superior anymore by saying at least we acknowledge dysfunction. Because now the left is a reason for the dysfunction. Oh, and here's another thing, Christopher. Society, we shouldn't even be part of society. Society is a fear construct. It's right explained. It's community should be part of. Just want to correct you on that, Christopher, Alexander. So, there is silence on the left, namely that their liberal escapes are not that appealing anymore. And there is silence on the right, namely that their heroes that they were worshiping weren't able to deliver the great release, the great relief that they were looking for. So now, what can we expect? This suspicious silence, you know why it's so suspicious? Because people are not reporting on all the people who are demotivated and losing it, not reporting on it. Only once in a while will you see in mainstream media when a guy picked up a machete and attacks one in public, or you hear about a man killing himself, killing his whole family, then himself, or you hear about groups of young men attacking others with knives and blades or whatever. The mainstream media, as well some even alternative media, is not reporting the full scope of the demotivated people losing it. So what happens now is that there is this false sense of peace that's growing amongst the people. Yes, 2022, the crisis of 2020 is over. We can finally just go on like nothing ever happened. It's 2019 again. We can just continue escaping, continue with our lives. But then there are people saying, okay, but this is not 2019. Of course, it's not the same year, but we're not back to before 2020. A lot of things were exposed past 2 years, things people didn't want to face. And there are more conflicts now than before 2020. So what are you guys talking about? And let me tell you one thing, believers. Just like in a scary movie, when things are so peaceful, in almost every horror movie, things begin so peaceful, and suddenly out of the blue, something shocking happens. And when something shocking happens, nobody pays attention, and it gets worse and worse. Well, that's what's going on right now. We are in the middle of a horror movie playing out. But this horror movie is not fiction on a TV screen. It's real life things playing out. And as believers, we need to know what goes on and we need to be ahead of it. So, what do we do about this suspicious silence that goes on? We keep our ears open. That's the first thing we do. Keep your ears open so that you can pick up what goes on around you. Listen, when the public goes silent like this, things are boiling up. So you have to be alert to pick up what people are talking about. Because once you pick up what people are talking about, now you know what to pray about or where to intervene. And this is the sad thing about many believers. Many believers end up being victims in life, or many believers end up being trapped in bad situations, tragedies happen to them. I want to hear more about believers who were ahead of things. So, and this is one thing pagans do. Pagans always make sure their ears are open to pick up signals what goes on in the community. Pagans always make sure they're attentive and sensitive to what goes on around them so that they can counter any potential bad thing that may happen. Now, pagans cannot counter everything because they don't have the resurrection power of Christ, but at least they have the realistic attitude that they need to counter things. Too often, believers are not attentive nor sensitive to what goes on around them. This is a day and age in which we have to be sensitive and attentive to our environments, believers. This is not the time to play church or to go into your little bubble and to pretend like it's 2019 again. It's not 2019 again. And the area, the old normal for 2019 and before will never come back. I already explained it to you. So are we going to be frightened? No, absolutely not. We're not going to be frightened. We have to remain alert and sensitive to our environment. Because I'm telling you, things are growing. Let me say, a lot of people turn into time bombs. And those time bombs are about to go off. And before 2019, it was mainly in certain areas, certain neighborhoods, you had time bombs walking around that you need to watch out for. Well, guess what? The ghetto has become mainstream now. The ghetto has become mainstream. And before 2019, it was mainly certain neighborhoods, certain areas where you had all those time bombs walking around. Well, don't look for bad neighbors anymore. Bad neighbors have become the norm because you have a lot of people with a short fuse and a lot of disappointment and anger building up and about to explode. So we have to walk in the power and be fierce in it like never before. I hope this is clear to you. I'm glad I was able to shift my mobile phone and complete this live stream. I don't know what was going on with my Wi-Fi, but anyway. In your environment where you live, be sensitive and alert to what goes on around you. During suspicious silence, you shouldn't just get along with the silence because that means you're endangering yourself. Jesus said, pay attention to the signs of the times. Signs of the times means check the timing of things that happen around you. Let me tell you, a lot of people that ended up being massacred or killed or genocided, they just didn't pay attention to the timing. Pay attention to timing. We as believers, we don't have to go through unnecessary tribulation. We will face tribulation anyway because we serve the Heavenly Father. So why should we go to unnecessary difficulties? We shouldn't. So how do we bypass unnecessary difficulty? We need to be alert and sensitive. Being alert and sensitive will keep you alive, and it is life-saving for those around you too. Being distracted and at ease, that's one of the most dangerous conditions to be in, distracted and at ease. And a lot of people, including believers now, are distracted and at ease. That's a very bad combination. That's a toxic and lethal combination, being distracted and at ease at the same time. We should not be paranoid nor fearful, absolutely not. What we should be is sensitive, alert, and ready to act. So, is this all clear to you? Let me know in the live chat. Is this all clear? Well, by the way, 2015 is an estimation of when the right wing kind of became dominant, but it was already coming up a little bit before that. It's not just about the far right or the far left. The disappointments worldlings are facing these days, the existence of mainstream media, social media, and instant communication and swift traveling, it makes it impossible to keep the darkness of the masses hidden. So now, because they can't avoid their own darkness anymore, and because they don't have an organized victimizing machine that gives them relief, I already told you, it's going to lead to purge here and there. I'm not saying there's going to be one worldwide purge on everyone. No, we're going to have purge here and there. In some places, already began. It's already begun, I mean. But anyway, we as believers, we have the advantage because these things were prophesied it would happen, and we have the resurrection power of Christ to operate in. So do not be distracted by the far left nor the far right. It's left wing, right wing, conservative, liberal. Stop being distracted by those things. See what happens around you. You have masses of people who are disappointed. They don't want to deal with the consequences in daily life of their own neglect, but they have no choice to. So eventually, right now, they're silent, but at some point, you're going to have to see explosions here and there. So don't be surprised about it. And many of those explosions will not be reported by mainstream media, but you'll see them on undercover social media. Because even social media will begin to block such videos. Look, we have nothing to be afraid of as believers. Absolutely nothing. And that's why I reminded you, we have nothing to be afraid of. We have the resurrection power of Christ to operate in, and that is what we should do. No church mentality of thinking, yeah, we can go to heaven, or we need to wait for the rapture. There's no rapture coming. We will endure whatever goes on the earth in a victorious way. That's the God's plan for us. So start living today. I'm not telling you to waste all your money doing things that are not necessary, like going to casinos, blow your money in the nightclubs, all that. No. I'm not telling you to gamble. I'm telling you to live right now. Live now because you only have today to operate. You can only be active in the present. You only have the now, so operate in the now. All right. Are there any questions about this topic? Please let me know in the live chat, please. Thank you very much. Are there any questions? Let me know. So be sensitive and alert these days. Not fearful, not paranoid, sensitive and alert. So you can be ahead of any retaliation about to happen. Psalms 91 and Psalms 140 indeed. You can use those to meditate and decree and declare to Psalms 91, Psalms 140. Thank you, Diane, for suggesting them. Thank you. Well, anyway, thank you all for being here. It's a good beginning of the Shabbat doing this live stream. Keep agreeing with Christ. Be at peace, and I'll see you in the next live stream. Shalom.